Welcome to the Town Square Stories. This is a show exploring the people in our community and what they do, what drives them, what pushes them forward. And today we have our very first guest, Justin Myrick. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Oh,
Which
cool.
do you consider jiu-jitsu an extreme sport? It's a combat sport, right? That's what you call it?
I think extreme is like the wingsuits and I feel like that kind of stuff is but I don't know. It is kind of crazy, and it's not. I mean, jiu-jitsu is for everyone, but not everyone loves jiu-jitsu. Just like I'm sure not everyone loves jumping out of planes. So in that sense, maybe it is extreme. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah,
Definitely
definitely combat. And
combat, yeah,
combat and
combat,
really,
but we don't do any striking. That's what's odd about it. Combat, I feel like you should be able to strike it. If we're gonna say combat, it's like there's no striking.
yeah. Yeah,
So there's
accidental striking.
yeah, that happens.
More of a flow sport.
Yeah,
Very much so a flow to it.
yeah.
So how'd you first get into jiu-jitsu?
Oh, we're rolling, huh?
We're rolling.
Sorry. Man, I have always loved martial arts, Tal. And I grew up, I was like a Bruce Lee fan. I bought the Jeet Kune Do book and always had an interest. Even in college, I took some Taekwondo. But I graduated. So I did it for 6 months and graduated. I moved away. It was like didn't know any professors in the new town, but I was living in Russellville for years, and I'd pass by this jiu-jitsu gym for some martial arts. I was like, I bet that'd be pretty cool. But, it's funny how you can think about something, and it was on my way to work, so daily reminders, but I never went until a good friend of mine, Ted, kept tagging me in all their Facebook posts. Like every Facebook post they were doing is like Justin Myrick, like tagging me. And the coach, who I didn't know at the time, Brian, he's like, bro, I'm sorry, your boy Ted ain't going to let it go till you come try. Like, all right, I'm going to come try a class. So I went and tried a no-gi class, so it's jiu-jitsu, just shorts and a shirt. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed it. Then I went to a gi class and completely loved it, right? So after I was hooked, immediately. The no-gi was like, I like this, it's fun. But something about the gi particular just really over the top. So
what do you like about the gi?
I like both, in all fairness. I do like both, and I can appreciate both because no-gi is kind of like street. Like if so much of jiu-jitsu is self-defense. It's one reason why I wanted to go, right? Because I wanted to know how to defend myself. And in the street, people don't always have big jackets on, right? So you might end up in a scrap, somebody's trying to mess with you, they have a t-shirt on, like, okay, let's learn how to handle ourselves in that situation. But there's just something about the gi that you put it on, you kind of feel like a samurai, man. You got it's big, thick, it's not like your typical, a lot of, like when I did Taekwondo, that we did not, it was very light. These are thick, like blankets, man. It's wild, but I kind of like it. It slows things down. And you can get so creative with it. I think that's probably where I would land on it. There's a lot more creativity with the gi because you can use your opponent's gi, you can use your own gi to attack, to defend. You can just do some really neat stuff. Mm-hmm. So creativity, man, that's what I love about it.
Good. Hold on 1 second. Let me just make sure this is set to.
Okay. I know I have those thoughts too, and you're like, wait, am I? You're good.
Is it set to? Yeah. Sometimes what's happened, and then we'll get back on track, is like it'll be focused on. Yes, space. They're super blurry. Yeah, I've got to say that I don't know what about. I tried jiu-jitsu a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know what about it. When I came to Forza, something about it, it just clicked different this time. So much more fun. Even it's punishing. And I think I asked you like a few months in. I was like, "Hey, man, are you supposed to
Am I supposed to be this sore all the time?" I do think there's an adjustment of it because it is. You asked earlier, is it extreme? I don't know. I think of other sports, but it is a massive adjustment to your body because we're just not, your body's just not conditioned to go through that type of suffering because in the beginning, that's kind of what it is. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a CrossFit buddy of mine years back, and he was being highly complimentary of jiu-jitsu and the demand it puts on your body. He said, man, I don't know what research he did. I should have asked him, but he said, man, I've looked into it. When you have to come against someone else, like you're attacking me right now, and I have to somehow find a way to not let you destroy me. He said that the energy and just the demand from muscles, bone structure, and all, bone density, it's super high. He's like, bro, I have to come up with 10 minutes of stuff to come up with what y'all do. You can do it for 3 minutes. I need 10 minutes to equal that. I thought that was interesting. So there is a transition that your body has to go through to get used to that. I felt that. So when you ask, I laughed because I was like, I remember that. Now, years in, it's like, dude, I mean, I can get tired from, like, if I roll really, I'm 45 years old, bro. If I roll really hard for like an hour, I'll be really tired that afternoon. But my body, it's not like that white belt phase where you were like, what's happening to me? I was always bruised and stuff. And it's just, your body gets conditioned. That's kind of cool, man. It's kind of neat how you train. You're like, I'm good now. Dude, someone could run in this room right now and put me in a rear naked choke, and I'd be like, all right. I'd be comfortable. I would know what to do. It's like we do this all the time. I'm good.
Yeah. I imagine the adrenaline, though, in a real situation is going to...
much different, for sure. Yeah, I've only had like one close call, and I've stayed calm.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Which is the point, right? We learn these things to de-escalate situations. Like that's what, I mean, in a real life scenario, the goal is not to be some big bad dude who can go, no. The goal is to de-escalate. We don't want to fight.
Yeah.
Like
No, for real.
We want to avoid this at all costs. But I think being comfortable and confident that if things go south and you need to protect yourself or protect your family, it helps you to think clearly. It helps you to communicate in a tone that's calm, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think it's a whole nother side train of self-defense, but yeah, huge benefit. But
yeah. No, if anything, it's shown me how mortal I am. Because I've sustained a couple like small injuries since training, which is normal, I think. Yep. But now I know, like, okay, we're doing that on comfy mats.
Yep.
Right? If I were to be in a real fight on the concrete,
different.
I don't want to do that anymore.
No.
Not that I ever really wanted to, but now I know, like, okay, this is more dangerous than you might think if you don't train.
That's right.
Yep. So definitely de-escalate. And those first 3 months for me, first 3 or 4 months, very hard, very, I don't know, very, I wanted to win because I don't know. I just show up and it's like, okay, I want to win. I want to win this role.
Yep.
And that, I think after my first injury, that kind of showed me, like, okay, you don't have to win to win.
Well, we have to define what win is.
Yeah.
Right. So too many people make winning about like actually getting a submission or dominating it. And we do want to learn those things. But, bro, for me, you know what my win is? That I get to train. That I'm 45 years old and I get to do something that, honestly, Lord willing, if I'm healthy enough and it keeps me healthy for sure, you can do that. I know guys in their 70s doing this. I mean, just jiu-jitsu. Like, they're still training. They train different, right? But they're still training. I think that's pretty neat.
It is, yeah. So what's it like being a brown belt?
Brown belt's really interesting because that's the belt right before black. And so you're kind of, you've been in it long enough to really kind of look back and see, you know, there's 5 belts in jiu-jitsu for those listening or watching who may not be aware. So you have white, blue, purple, brown, black. So it's a fun season at brown because I think you mentioned this earlier about how like you just wanted to win. I think you can have some of that all the way up, but by the time you get to brown, it's like, I do think you've died completely to that. I'm not saying there's probably brown belts out there that haven't, but a lot of it's our gym culture, which is fantastic. But man, brown belt's fun because you can enjoy, you've learned to appreciate and enjoy the process of jiu-jitsu, right? It is something that's extremely difficult. It is something where you will face failure no matter what belt you get to. Like, I'm rolling today with a blue belt, and he submitted me like 3 or 4 times in a row, right? You can probably guess who.
I imagine who, yeah.
But it's like, but I love that, right? Do I walk off the mat? Like, I was like, no, dude, I had a ton of fun with him. He's fantastic. He's incredible. So we had fun. And so, no, brown belt is that it's a neat stage because you can appreciate everything it is, the ups, the downs, the failure, the success. You've learned that it's making you better, right? There's no doubt. I feel like God's used that in my life. Like, jiu-jitsu's been a tool he's used to help me be a better husband, a daddy, pastor, all these things. Like, it's neat when you can find something like that helps you more. Like, so it's not just about this thing that I'm going and doing just for it's like, it actually is benefiting me outside of the gym for sure.
How has it helped you be a better husband and dad?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, well, energy. I mean, I'm just being on a practical standpoint. I see a lot of men in particular that throw in the towel probably in their mid-40s on being healthy. So I've had, dads joke with me, I work with college students, the dads will come in, just you wait, man, just you wait. And I'll just kind of smile away, but I'm like, I don't think it has to be like that. And I know because I've struggled with being overweight that when you're overweight, bro, you don't have as much energy, right? Like you're struggling. Mm-hmm. And if you want to invest in your kids, how easy is it to come home from work and just sit on the couch and put some sports on and just sit there and like, you're not engaged with your family. You're just tired from you're going to say in your mind, I've earned this so I'm just going to sit here and basically exist, but I'm totally disengaged from active involvement with my kids' lives. So energy, man, like I have more energy now at 45 than I feel like I ever had in my 20s. And that's crazy. That's crazy, man. So that's really encouraging to me because you need energy. If you're going to like play with your kids, they want to build some Legos, man, let's go. They want to go outside and throw the football, let's go. They want to wrestle around, for sure, let's go. Like, that's fun, right?
Yep.
We're going to do those things. Oh, also, we need to have a conversation. They want to talk to me. It's like, all right, let's talk. That takes energy, right? It takes, like, we have to have that to. So I think from an energy standpoint, I'm just telling you in all seriousness, you need something to keep you healthy in life because I do think you need that sustained energy just to engage with people in your life, or else you're the dude who's just like, what are we doing? So I think that's one way. It's done other things, man. It's equipped me to make the most of conversations with my kids. For example, jiu-jitsu, if you stick with it long enough, there's going to be days you don't want to go, and if you can learn to do things even when you don't want to do them, there's great benefit in that. And that's been a good talking point and reference point for me and my kids, whether it's like they don't want to go to school that day. I'm like, listen, I understand you don't want to, but here's why we need to. You need to learn the art of doing something in life even when you don't want to do it. Bro, that's a key life skill that I want my kids to remember, because I meet people who don't have that life skill and they're adults, and it's not going so well for them, Tal, because they're they've trained themselves to only do what they want to do. Well, dude, how do we learn sacrifice? And there's key things in life that if we're going to actually benefit our community, our society, our churches, or whatever you're involved in, bro, it takes doing things when you don't always, I'm saying like most days you want to do things, but there are some days you don't. So that's just one example of kind of a talking point it'll give me, which has been really good. And I think that's two examples that come to mind.
Yeah.
There's others, but. Yeah,
no, absolutely, man. Even just the discipline's big, doing things when you don't want to do them, and just the functionality of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like you can go in a gym and you can lift up a bunch of weight. Something about jiu-jitsu, it's like it's made picking up my kids easier.
Yep.
Or carrying stuff in, like I can bend down and yeah, that's fun.
Well, that's what for me as I've gotten older, functional and dynamic are the two words that I want when it comes to staying healthy, because dynamic's going to keep you, that's your cardio basically, we're grabbing, I'll do stuff outside of jiu-jitsu, grab medicine balls and throw them in the air and stuff. That's always fun.
You'll make me suffer sometimes. Yeah, there's been a couple times where it's like, you tell me what we're going to do, and I'm like, I really don't want to do this, but that's the time you got to do it. That's when you don't want to do it, you got to do it.
Because we're never as tired as we think we are, remember?
Yeah.
So, I've told my kids that too, but it's good. I like functional, to your point. Yes, when you're grappling with another individual and their goal is to get you to a dominant position and then make you tap, like if verbally, or I'm going to have to, like, I can see that if I don't do this, something's going to snap, or I'm going to pass out, or you're going to, like, I'm going to have a severe consequence. So that's the trust level. Like, I'm trusting that when I tap, you let go, right? But because of that dynamic, there is an immense intensity with that. So yeah, it is a full body. It is absolutely intense. And so
is it dangerous?
It is very functional.
Is jiu-jitsu a dangerous sport?
Yes, for sure. But I say that is driving down the interstate dangerous?
Oh yeah.
Dude, 100%. So here's what I say when I say that. People were kind of shocked if I say that, but you have to understand how is safety to avoid all things danger? No, like I enjoy traveling. Is getting on an airplane somewhat dangerous? Sure. I mean, is cars probably more probably car wrecks than plane crashes? But my point is, hiking. I love to hike. Are there moments where you go on a trail and there's a 100-foot drop off 3 feet from where we're walking? You know what I'm saying? Like, so do I just avoid all those things? No, I learn how to be safe while doing this thing that's dangerous, right? I take precaution. I learn how to drive, right? I learn how to hike and be aware of what's dangerous. So in that sense, is it dangerous? Absolutely, but completely safe if you are willing to learn how to do it right, okay? Yeah. But some people don't, just like driving. Let's be honest. Some people never learn how to drive right, okay? Thus, they're more dangerous to be out there. Like, you don't want to get in the car with that person. They've not learned to be safe, okay? There are some people in jiu-jitsu, most jiu-jitsu culture is going to be, like, they're going to know how to do it. And we know how to take care of each other, right? That's when I roll with you, my goal is not to destroy Tao. My goal is to take care of you. I want you to continue to train, right? Yeah. So I do think there's certainly dangers. I mean, but I'm completely comfortable being involved in it at 45 years old. I'm completely comfortable with my kids participating in it because we learned how to do it properly so that we can be safe. Yeah. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense. And everyone we've rolled with at the Forza gym, they have that mindset. You know, I've never been scared of my safety.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm scared they're going to destroy me, but not
no matter what gym you go to, when somebody comes in new, just like you admitted earlier, a white belt's going to be so intense because there's this fight response. Like, oh, I'm fighting for my life right now. And it's in a controlled environment and we can tap, but it's still that. So sometimes I think you have to be careful as a brown belt and even purple. If it's someone new, I take a much more self-defense approach because I don't know what kind of attitude they're coming at me in that role. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I do understand there are certain roles that are more dangerous. A new person is more dangerous, right? The higher someone goes, the more trust there is that I know this person is going to take care of me. Like, I just know. Mm-hmm. A white belt, like, they might be a good person, but I don't know. I can't trust them yet. They got to earn that. So there are dangers. I'm not denying that. Or I've said that. It is dangerous and there are dangers. But, man, just like anything else in life, we can learn to navigate through those things and be safe and have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. So as someone who's a white belt and started jiu-jitsu in the last 12 months, I got to say that culture's great, safety's pretty good, but I still think as a new person coming in, I went to the noon classes, which aren't beginner. There are the specific beginner classes, but those just never really worked out with my schedule. I went to a couple, and I think it would have really benefited me more, and probably still would, if I could go to them, because learning to fall is something that I've only recently, it started to make sense to me. Like, okay. I got to slap the mat, disperse some of that energy. That started to make more sense recently. Some like line drill, these solo movements. Someone coming to noon class, and there's are new people who do that because that's all they can do, like me. That's a little bit of a challenge. Maybe there's something else that can be done about that. I don't know.
Yeah, no. To your point, no. That white belt. You know, I've been training 9 years, and we've always just integrated white belts into our other classes. So that was a new launch. I believe it was last year or this year. Probably a year ago they started that, and they've been super. They'll have, I think it's sometime 14, 16 people just new white belts. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really spoken to what you're saying. It is unfortunate, like if the schedule doesn't work out.
Yeah, for most people, it's probably good, but it's after work, which is good. But just if you got kids, makes it a little bit harder. Yep, a little bit harder. So someone that's struggling with either failure, right? Whether it's in jiu-jitsu, they're in that zone of failing or hurting, they're new, whatever, or just in life. What would you say? Oh, what should they be doing?
It's a great question, Tao. And at 45, like, bro, I'd love to say we're always going to have to deal with failure. And that's the deception of you think, oh, a brown belt, a black belt, they must just dominate everyone. It's like, no, not true. There are certain people that, like, occasionally you get somebody that comes along, they're pretty dominant to pretty much everyone. But for the majority of people, bro, it's like if you talk about life, now in life, everybody's going to fail. So then what? Well, there's kind of two responses. You can there's probably many responses, but most people do immature responses to failure, which is, number one, we just ignore it and we refuse to admit that a mistake was made. All right, so we're just gonna move around. We're not gonna talk about it. And if you bring something up, now there's a fight broken out. We're in conflict because how dare you tell me I'm wrong? I failed. So there's that type of response, and I don't know what the second immature one would have been, but But that reject do what?
Quitting, maybe?
Yeah, that would definitely lead to that. Yeah, because that's a great thank you, because that's a great observation. Usually, why would I keep showing up to something if I know it's going to mean failure, failure, failure? And what we don't realize is, how do you get successful at something? And I'm not saying this with all things, you could probably come up with exceptions, but generally speaking, especially if you look at athletics and sports, you get successful because you embrace failure as a part of the process. I'm not saying to accept failure is okay. I'm just saying that you understand principally that to get good at something, I don't just start here. Like, and sometimes you do have a rare person who comes along and they can just hit a baseball. Like, it just clicks. And then everybody goes, well, what? Well, they're probably an exception to that. Most people are just, and even in baseball is a great example, the best hitters in the world are striking out more than half the time. Mm-hmm. Why aren't they quitting? Because they realize batting, 400 is actually pretty good. They're striking out 6 out of 10 times, and we're going to call that one of the best hitters of the world. Why? Failure is a part of the process of being successful. So in life, man, I think part of the problem is we're too hard on ourselves. It was like, man, but in life we will fail. We've got to be willing to acknowledge it, admit it, so then we can learn from it and also make it right. If there's something, talking about life, is like, there might be a conversation to be had, and you probably need to go tell someone, look, I'm sorry, my tone was wrong. Like, I apologize. That needs to happen. Mm-hmm. But that can't happen if we're living as if nothing's, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yep.
That's kind of where we land. So no, I would say be encouraged. It's not if we fail, it's when we fail. We will fail. And, I'm thankful that, I'm a Christian, man. I love the Bible and all the wisdom God gives us in his word. And so I think God has been very instructive with how to embrace and deal with that in a proper way that honors both him, but also the people around us. So, like, case in point, if I wrong you, and I go to you and I'm like, Tal, man, look, I was wrong. Like, I'm sorry, man. I did this, and dude, will you forgive me? Well, bro, that's being a peacemaker, right? Like, that's, mm-hmm. I mean, most times I feel, what would your response be? If I come humbly to you, like, bro, listen, I'm wrong.
It would, of course I'll forgive you, man.
I mean, yeah, but that's so I would say be encouraged, take heart. It is a part of life. Like, there's no world that exists where you and I will not fail. And we never graduate out of failure. Now, hopefully our failures shift into other things, right?
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't continue to fail the same thing. We should be growing, right? We don't just get to go, well, failure is a part of life. So, like, no, that's not it either, right? Like, let's do jiu-jitsu, bro. If you keep slipping into that triangle, like, bro, at some point I'm like, so this happened to me early on in my journey. I was a white belt. And one of I think he was probably a late purple or just brown belt at the time, but he'd catch me in a triangle every day. He was just having fun. And we did it for like 4 classes in a row. And finally, like, he wasn't going to tell me in the beginning, but after I failed so many times, he finally looked at me. He's like, okay, look, you either got to have both arms in or both arms out, because I'm catching you because it's one arm in and one arm out. So you got to stop. And so finally he taught me why. Because the goal is we actually not just continue to make the same mistakes. Mm-hmm. Part of life is maturing, is that the mistakes are made, but we graduated from one. Yeah, now we got another one we're dealing with, but that's life.
Yeah.
And different seasons bring different challenges and different failures, but
the failures you have today are the ones you even dreamed about before.
Yeah, exactly.
So problems you have.
Yep. You got to deal with them. So
I agree with all that, man. And to add on to that, one other way to look at it too is, if you do what we talked about earlier, redefine what success is. You may not be submitting people every class. If I just looked at jiu-jitsu and was like, I'm only going to be successful when I'm winning, I wouldn't be very happy. But I'm happy, like, about all those other things we talked about, being more mobile at home. Yep. And getting to meet cool people. So that is winning.
Yeah, I'm learning self-defense. I'm staying in shape. And I'm having a lot of fun. Those were the 3 things that kind of drew me to it. And that's the 3 things that 9 years in, I still am back because of that.
Yeah.
So that's success.
So more people should do jiu-jitsu in our society, learn, or something, right? Something that challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I do think jiu-jitsu is certainly worth a shot. We always joke, is jiu-jitsu for everyone? Well, sure, it's for everyone. Not everyone loves it. Like, people come in the gym and they train and they're like, it's not really my thing. Okay, I'm good with that, but find something. I think some people get surprised who come in the gym and they're like, I didn't think this would be my thing, but I love this. Mm-hmm. So that's always kind of cool to see.
Absolutely. So is there any closing advice you'd give someone, whether it's spiritually, physically, mentally, Anything.
I would say there is just one thing I think God has taught me through jiu-jitsu. There is a connection between physical and spiritual. Paul writes, he talks about in the Bible that physical fitness is of some value. Godliness has a value for all things. So just to kind of emphasize that physical fitness is of some value, I do think as a society, we've kind of thrown that one out the window, and it's almost like being unhealthy is celebrated. We've just embraced like, I can't get down with that, bro. From the foods we allow to be in our system to the exercise we are not doing, like find something, right? Because I do think there is a connection to physical and spiritual. And I think that too many people have given up on that, man. So we need something in life, I think, to push us physically. And I think there's lots of lessons to be learned in that. Like case in point, here's what I'm saying. If we were to hop over here and get on a wall squat, right? Let's just do a wall squat. And at some point, bro, we're going to have the thought of, this is stupid. Like, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm done. I'm ready to quit and I'm out. You've got to find things in life where you get to that point and you push through. Mm-hmm. Because that's a controlled thing that we would do. But in life, dude, there are going to be things that happen that you are going to want to quit. You're going to want to throw in the towel. You're going to want to say, I'm enough. This is stupid. I'm out. And we miss out on so many good things because we just are so quick to do that. So I do think finding things physically that whether if I got a friend of mine just finished a full marathon. It was like the first time I'm going to run a marathon this year. And he did it. And he talked about it. It was like there are moments of that race. I mean, that's a long way to go. Right. And he finished it. That's awesome. So he found something that even in the training he was doing where he probably thought like, what am I doing right now? Like, I don't want to do this, but he pushed through. Right. If we can do that in a controlled environment, then when things happen in life, we've at least given ourselves a shot at connecting like, hey, I want to quit right now, but hold up. I don't always have to quit when I want to quit. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen benefit of what happens when I push through and persevere. Man, there's a reward on the other side. Maybe there's some reward on the other side of this if I'm going to stick. How many people just throw in the towel on marriage when it gets tough? It's like, bro, you meet successful couples. And when I say successful, like they're still married 20 years in, 30 years in, 50 years in, bro. Do you think that came without conflict? No. You think there were moments where they wanted to throw in the towel? Oh, for sure, bro. And I'm laughing because like but that's the beauty of it, right? For the couples that stick with it, that persevere, that don't quit just at the first sign of trouble. It's like they keep fighting and keep working and keep growing. Bro, there's reward on the other side of that. So I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know how to put a bow on all that, but I hope that's encouraging to somebody listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much, man, for joining us here on this show and sharing that, because I agree with you, man. This is important stuff, and people need all these things in their life. And if you're thinking about trying jiu-jitsu, there's a great place here in town at Russellville, Forza Martial Arts. And you also coach. We didn't even touch on that, but if you have a kid who wants to get into it, you coach kids classes, don't you?
Kids, adults, anyone that's interested, give us a shout. We'll do an intro lesson for kids. We do it for adults. And, we want you to give it a shot.
All right, Justin, thanks for coming on. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks, Tal.